All right, I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order.
Tim Hand,
Yes.
Keith Ford, Beverly Evans, here, Don Baker,
Here.
Fred Dusendorf,
Here.
Josh Shannon,
Present.
Eric Knapp.
Here.
If we could stand and say the go ahead and call the meeting to order.
Tim Hand,
Yes.
Keith Ford, Beverly Evans, here, Don Baker.
Where's it coming through?
Josh Shannon, Eric Knapp.
If we could stand and say the go ahead and call the
Where's it coming
order.
Tim Hand,
Yes.
Keith Ford, Beverly Evans, here, Don Baker.
My corner.
Where?
Right there. No, down one more. Here, right there. Yep. Turn that right down to 0. There you go.
There we go. All right. All right, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. One night that I invite Tyler to come to our board meeting and we have all chaos right now. Being that there's no presentations, I did ask Tyler Shaw, the Director of Public Health for Allegheny County, to come back during the fair when we had our miscommunications about the senior stand, the Jesse Valley food stand. And then with the reopening of schools and everything that's happening with COVID, to just come and kind of speak to both of those. And Tyler, the floor is yours.
Okay.
I'm sure we will have questions, but anything you can share on either of those would be great.
Absolutely. So I'll start with the senior stand. So there were some issues. I think the Fair Board has also addressed these concerns with structural issues. From the health department's perspective, some equipment needs some updating. The refrigerator has some rust, which could leak into the food. Some of the tables are porous, so they're considered not cleanable anymore. So we may need to look at some updating some equipment, some of that. There's some screens, and I have copies of the inspection reports here too, if you want to see those. Some screens are in disrepair, but I think the Fair Board was mainly looking at like the structural issues, yeah.
But none of these were anything that would have caused you to close it down or even keep people from eating inside the stand, correct?
Now, if they're blue violations, which typically gives you a certain timeline to correct. So if these continued next year, we might write you up and turn it into a red violation at that point, but right now it's just.
Gotcha. That's it. I mean, do you guys have any, senior stand wise, do you have anything where, I mean, we've all had this discussion over and over and over again, the feasibility of keeping the current structure, updating the current structure. Not that that's necessarily a public health, but I mean, we're obviously hearing it from the guy that does the inspections that there are some things that we need to address.
Now, like you got screens on. What do you care if there's a screen on the window for or not?
Insects. So actually,
But
there's
the guy next door is serving weenies out here in a wide open air.
right. This is a screen for behind your hot water tank. So it's not necessarily a screen for insects, it's more for rodent control. So those stands aren't there. They drive those stands away. Your stand is a permanent stand. So you could get into rodent harborage issues.
Yeah. So, yeah,
Well, the good thing is we have a year to discuss it, so we don't have to figure it all out.
right. Outside of that, safety wise, electrical and anything like that, that comes down to codes and that, which you guys don't
typically
delve
stay
in,
out.
correct?
Yeah, we stay out, we stay in our area.
Okay. Going to, obviously, the reopening, I know Doc is going to present the reopening plan for GD tonight. And I know you had extensive conversations with Doc. Give us your take on where we're going.
So it's looking like we're going to push out following the CDC's recommendations. At the county level, we're probably not going to adopt or pass anything on our end more restrictive than that. So CDC guidelines is what we're pushing people to. I did have a discussion with Doc today. The only difference and change in that is contact tracing for student to student transmission. So if students are within that 6 foot separation distance, if they're both wearing masks, they wouldn't have to quarantine. So that's an important piece. That's a change from last year. So that's really the biggest change that we're seeing. If you're pushing students in closer, 3 feet and greater, they both are wearing masks, they would not have to quarantine if there's a positive student in the classroom.
So that's huge that's huge for us, because when we the first plan that Pam probably has in there had a 6 foot radius for contact tracing. But for us to be able to bring that to the 3 feet, whether that's separated, everybody like this, that means we're gonna minimize the issues of irrigation last year. It was a lot of quarantines we had because of contact tracing of people who were within 6 feet. So
It's only for student to student. It's not student to teacher. It's not teacher to teacher. That's still that 6 foot requirement.
Schools are gonna be the only thing in the area where masks are required. They can go to Walmart or wherever else and just run around.
Technically, it's all recommendations at this point. It's all CDC recommendations. So right now, the recommendation is you wear a mask right now, even going into Walmart. It's just recommendation.
And you go to doctor's offices, hospitals and stuff. you say,
Well,
"Wear a mask."
School makes the policy.
Yeah.
If they go with CDC's recommendation, then yes, they have to.
And we're meeting as a regional BOCES, trying to be as consistent as possible, so that what you'll see from me later today as far as the draft version of the plan is basically the same thing that all of the schools in our region did. So that there is consistency from school to school. We have BOCES programs, we have other students who are in these programs. So the other thing that we're hearing is that one of the first acts as predicted, she said this of Governor Hochul, will be to have a statewide mask mandate coming to schools. So that's what's being said.
it's a wild card question, but when do you think we'll ever have?
I wish it would end just as much as.
Tyler's the one taking.
I mean, is there a number that they're gonna try to reach to again, or are we just gonna continue?
So
Where do we stand right now, numbers wise? I think it goes to some of what Buddy's talking about. Where have you seen the county progress from, say, where the school ended, we were doing pretty well as a county to where we're at now?
I mean, the vaccination efforts, the main key here. I mean, we're
Yeah.
seeing less hospitalizations, we're seeing less deaths. We haven't had a death recorded in over 6 months at this point. So we're seeing the vaccination efforts working. That's where we're gonna make the most money.
Infections starting to go back up.
A little bit, the Delta variant. So we're in this ping pong battle back and forth with these variants. So as the virus continues to circulate in our community amongst the unvaccinated, and now we're even seeing it breaking through in the vaccinated population. If we don't get that under control, the next variant's right around the corner. So yeah, to answer your question, I don't know. I hope it's swiftly, but
So in our plan, talks about every 5 weeks, so we're gonna take a look at where we stand. So it's not depending on what comes to the governor, or if there's new DOH regulations come out, but as far as the local level, our goal is to put something in place for 5 weeks, and then by week 4, we're starting to really take a close look at what the infection rate is, what's happening in school. We may have to tighten things down, we may be able to open things up, all depending on what's going on. So.
Now, as a consortium of all the superintendents of the schools, and after this 5 weeks, are you guys gonna try to get some sort of number?
I don't think there's a number, like some districts are putting on a number, like they're using 3%, was one of the ones that I saw. We're having general conversations, and there's a meeting tomorrow with for all the superintendents in Albany County, Cattaraugus County is doing the same with Dr. Watkins. So those conversations are happening. We're trying to be as consistent as possible. For me to look at you and say, well, if there's a number X, I don't have that number.
I was just wondering, when you're trying to get to 5 weeks to decide to change.
What I'm trying to see, frankly, is do we have a significant COVID problem in 5 weeks? Tell the truth. Do we have a number of, how many quarantines do we have? How many teachers are infected? How many teachers' families are infected? How many students honestly are infected? Is our masking working? Or, who knows, where it's substantial right now. Where I live, they're at a high. One of the news stories this morning was that the neonatal NICU is at capacity and strong because of COVID and because of other respiratory illnesses. So they're really concerned that more kids are catching COVID. And we've been out of school. So I can't predict with any reliability of what's going to happen in 5 weeks. So that's what we want to be, I think, cautious. I think we can be optimistic. I think we've proven that we can run school after last year in a way that from April to June, we had a couple of hiccups, but for the most part, we had kids at school 5 days a week. We had fairly normal operations. We're going to be able to try to do that again this year, is to be as normal as possible.
I think some of the schools that are looking at percentages in the school-wise for positivity, you have to understand that people aren't static. They're not in school, so all the time, 24 hours a day. So we're really looking at community transmission rate and the school rates combined together. It's not just one or the other that we should be looking at.
We end up with a high number. All the kids are coming back into Alfred University this week. You know what's gonna happen. That ain't a shot in the dark. That number's gonna go outside.
Alfred University, I know they put plans in place. They're mandating the vaccine at this point. They have a few exceptions, but they are mandating the vaccine. Alfred State's kind of moving towards that as well.
So that's what we're also going to look at, both numbers, not just the community transmission, but also see how that's. Try to use as much common sense as we can.
I mean, I've watched Tyler through this whole thing, so
To stay even, obviously, there's only masks are working. So we're gonna keep masks, we're gonna lower down.
That's a possibility. If the community transmission rate goes down significantly, and we've proven that we have been able to keep COVID out. I mean, that's one of the things we're gonna have to fluctuate, to be flexible again as we go through this year. So.
And I don't think it's just the one mask thing. It's parents keeping their children home when they're ill. It's faculty staying home when they're ill. All those things, washing your hands, all those habits together, not just the mask by itself.
Thank you.
Well, that's those that were vaccinated.
We're still gonna offer testing. We have the capacity here with the school, and we're still gonna support our community members who need a test to happen, absolutely. But as far as mandated, unless something comes down from the state level mandating that we do something like that, which at this point, I'm not hearing that that's happening. Although we have the teachers, the national teachers unions have come out with supporting a vaccination mandate. That's not something we're doing at a local level. We're gonna try to encourage all of our staff members to get vaccinated. We're gonna ask them to use common sense when it comes to any type of illnesses. We'll support them if they need to. If their child is quarantined and they can't come in, we learned last year to support them with a body in the classroom, working with kids while they're able to be remotely, possibly supporting their classroom if they have to be home. So we're gonna be as flexible as we can with our students, families, and staff, and support them to the best of our ability. Again, I come back to that term normalcy. Our goal is to have kids 5 days a week. I want to be able to offer all of our extracurricular activities because we know that's what's best for kids. My main concern is our students' mental health and their ability to come to school and be ready. So that's what I'm really focusing on is, well, the things we put in place that are minimally intrusive, hopefully keep COVID out of our building the best of our ability and have kids here 5 days a week with all of our extracurricular activities.
you just said something that I don't know if you can answer this, Tyler, or not, because I know it's just starting to come out. We had a conversation earlier before Buddy and those guys got there that the state's starting to look at those high contact sports again. Have you heard anything state health-wise where they're going to be?
Follow the guidance as usual. So on
They're not going to limit indoor sports because they were saying the outdoor, like football, soccer, they are good to go because they're outdoors, but we've got volleyball going on. We've got other indoor sports. Nothing more.
Could come out with a new administration change.
Yeah, exactly. One of the reasons I asked Tyler to come, number one, was to put a name to a face or a face to a name. And I watched him through this whole thing, working in the same building, and his wife works here. So I know if he's telling us this is what we should do, he's got the best interest of not only the school, but his family, his kids go to school here and there. So, believe me, we had a conversation last Monday that I struggle with it, you know, the rights of the parents to make that decision for their kids versus, and I really do struggle with it. I'm not a fan of having to go home and tell my daughter who got vaccinated so she didn't have to wear a mask, that she now does, you know?
I can give you a quick personal story. My son-in-law, 10 days ago, came down with the Delta variant.
Mhm.
Very sick. He had the Moderna shot, both of them. He got it from his brother who said he had a shot, suspect. But anyways, so he had to quarantine. They have a camper. He was in the camper for 10 days. Well, 4 days later, his daughter, my granddaughter, who was 10 years old, came down with the Moderna, or the Delta variant, and was almost hospitalized. Just to give her give you a couple of her symptoms. She had 3 days of temperature of 102. She was vomiting, hallucinating, almost went into the hospital a couple of times. Just that the hospital was hesitant to take her as long as the temperature stayed below 104. And very sick girl. She still hasn't recovered. This was 8 days ago.
So 2 vaccinated people gave your granddaughter, which is not vaccinated.
Well, it was a variant. See that if it was just the typical.
So
But the only way you're gonna get rid of variants, is by destroying the original virus. So the virus, there's not enough virus there to mutate. Once you get the virus down to a low enough level, you probably are aware of that, it's gonna stop mutating and you're not gonna get the Delta and these other very strong COVID viruses that will attack young people. And put them in the hospital, put them on the respirator. It's just gonna get worse. You know, it's not like a typical cold or something like that, and I'm not gonna get it. Because you can get it, especially if it's a mutated variant. So that's the only way you're gonna get rid of it is you've got to get it up to 70 percentile and get vaccinated. It's that simple.
But if the 2 vaccinated already had it.
Yeah, well, he could have
Even though
died.
it was a
Well, my
variant.
son-in-law could have died if he didn't have the COVID, or have the Moderna. So Moderna probably kept him from going in the hospital. Because the Moderna and the Pfizer and the J&J to a certain extent will reduce the symptoms and the severity of the COVID. Keep it from dying. So it's a serious thing. It's not something, well, I had my COVID, I got over it, it's gone. It's not that simple. Especially when it mutates like crazy, more so than the typical flu virus does.
There's this misconception that you get the vaccine, you're good, 100% effective. No one ever said it was 100% effective. You can still be infected. Hopefully that reduces your risk for hospitalization, reduces your risk for serious illness, reduces your risk for these long-term effects that we're seeing from COVID. You still don't even know 10 years from now, you're infected with COVID. What does that mean? Is it going to cause cancer? Is it going to cause some hidden illness that pops up later in life? We just don't know. But the more opportunities you provide in the community for it to mutate or to infect someone, that's when it has the opportunity to mutate just a little bit, and then we're off to the races again. We're in this ping pong battle back and forth on vaccines, not vaccines. We give it the opportunity to spread to the community, and then we're giving it the opportunity to change.
The only way you're gonna get rid of it is dampen it down, that virus, the COVID. Whether it's a variant or it's the original, you gotta get it down to a certain percentile. It's pretty simple. That's what
Easier said
frustrates
than
me.
done.
Any other questions for Tyler? If not,
Thanks.
yeah, so go ahead.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Tyler's been a massive support for me
Absolutely.
and for our district, and has really done a great job, so I really appreciate everything you've done. So I know I'll be calling. So I really appreciate it. And your department's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Good. So I anticipate us offering additional vaccine clinics in the future, beginning of the school year, so hopefully we can try to support our families if they need it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Tyler.
no problem.
Okay, you have a great night.
Thanks, Julie.
Yeah, you don't have to.
I mean, you're welcome to stay if you really want to.
This next presentation can get a little lengthy.
Thanks, Tyler. Take care.
You're up. Ms. Dallin, no, you can go wherever you feel comfortable.
So, I'll start. My type of provisions were, I think, package. And,
Sarah and a chance to review them. So I don't know if you wanna, I don't know if you need to go through each one versus if there's individual questions from the board. Discussion.
The ones I had, I already addressed in the email, so just things that we were looking
Yep,
at.
and the Latin honors, we're going to be added in there, there's not a meeting, but that has been added.
The only question I have is the athletic code of conduct. Are we all going under the same field here?
We just had that conversation at the athletic committee meeting prior to this. And all the wordings almost identical.
All of the things like they have consequences.
Yes.
We're all on the same page, but there are some different order and
Yeah.
wording on certain things.
Like what used to be, you get caught drinking your first offense, you were done for half a season. We've lightened up on our, we've met
We've managed.
Belfast pretty much where they were at. Because it was their consequences. It's different for smoking than it is drinking, than it is for illicit drug use. So each one of them seen a little bit differently, where ours was any kind of substance abuse was a 50-year or a 50%. It could have been 50 years.
That's really wonderful.
But 50%, yeah. We're now embrace it down because if smoking is detrimental to their health is drinking. Some would say yes, some would say no. It's drinking is, worse than one than the other. So it does break it down a little bit, but what I saw is the wording was pretty close to Belfast. It just doesn't say Belfast, Genesee Valley. It just says Genesee Valley.
One of the things we did, Fred, was maintained our own academic eligibility
Yes.
practices, but we aligned the timing of when they came out and had discussions to make sure they were accurate. So the idea that the Belfast kid is gonna be able to get away with X, Y, and Z and be able to play still, the GD kid would be held accountable for the same X, Y, and Z. And we looked at that, that's not possible as far as our plans go. There's different language, but when you look at the expectations for students, there are. There are repercussions. The consequences.
Yeah,
Exactly.
that's right.
It's the same.
Yeah.
Trying to make it as congruent as possible. Any other questions for Brian and Sarah? All right, is there anything you want to highlight? 'Cause I know you missed the opportunity to present on this. I know you'd love to. do so.
I did, it's my favorite. Elementary wise, we take it, we're obligated to put it in a format in words that kids of our age understand, and then the teachers go through it with them. Yeah,
Right, yeah.
the teachers go through it with them the first week, and I come in and do some highlights in the classroom. Really, we did a very similar one to one that we've done in the past. We did take all of the COVID pieces out of it at this point, and once, I didn't want to have this go to print, because I had to go to print last week, and so we took all the COVID out, and we're gonna do a half-page insert with the new rules that go with it. But, it's pretty straightforward for what we've done in the past. Consequences and things at the elementary level are a lot different, which is why in the actual code of conduct, everything says up to X number of days, which you can do anything less than that too, so. Otherwise, we try to do a lot of teaching of behaviors as opposed to consequences, because they've already had that teacher by the time we get to high school, so.
Anybody else see anything else in the teachers, students, handbook? What else am I missing? Elementary? Nothing? Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on, I need a motion and a second for the July 1st, 2021 meeting minutes as submitted.
Second.
Any corrections, additions, deletions, amendments? There was a couple. Oh, okay. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Ms. Ostrander, your bailiwick.
Okay, so the external audit is wrapping up for the summer. We are looking to close the year out in good shape,
Did they try to get a hold of me?
probably,
Okay,
The annual
but not yet.
of the manual fraud questions.
okay, because I got it. the county's been going through this whole scam emails and that, and even though I was on GB's website going to get my email, I think our system picked it up somehow. So I think it didn't come to me, I think it got thrown into a
Okay.
different box, but
Yeah, I'm not sure, do you remember who reached out to you?
No,
Okay.
I know, I spoke to someone last week.
Yeah, I can
I can't
reach
remember
back
their
out.
name.
give
I
me
can't think of
my
his name.
You want me to just give them your cell phone
Yeah.
number? Okay, yeah, I can do that.
if I
So,
don't answer, just have me leave a message, I'll call right back.
um.
Mhm.
So, we're looking to close out the year in good shape. The auditors should be here. They'll probably be zooming in the September meeting. But as of right now, I'm projecting anywhere between $600,000 and $700,000 to reserves for the end of the 2021 school year. But once I get the final report, I will give you those finalized numbers in advance of the next board meeting. Also, the first round of stimulus money has been approved. We submitted our application back in July, and this is for the SRSA. It's roughly $650,000. And in this application, we included some PPE, some of which we had already purchased out of last year's budget and some that we see ongoing over the next couple of years. We have some capital work included in this as well, which we discussed at the board retreat. One project is LVT flooring for 10 elementary classrooms, which are currently carpeted.
Similar.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's over there now, yes.
Yeah,
Same
so
material.
we have a small project going on right now. I believe it's 4 classrooms.
Correct.
That we're doing the same thing. So this would be an additional 10 to convert the carpet into the LVT.
Great for most of us.
You're looking at 14.
Yeah.
First floor elementary.
And then the second project in this application is access controls for all the hallway classroom doors. So we are currently working with the project, the architects to get that project submitted as soon as possible. The second round of stimulus funding, the application for the second round is due August 31st. This is the larger pool. For us, it's just over 2.1 million. It is more restricted. We have to allocate a large portion of this funds towards the learning loss.
Mhm.
But we're also hopeful to do some larger capital work as well, which we discussed. Two of the areas we're focusing on is a fenced-in pre-K playground, as well as some work on our HVAC and our handlers. Anyone have any questions on that?
Stuff. Air handlers.
So we'll be finalizing the details hopefully over the next couple of weeks.
How do we, I know you've probably gone over this, how do we address the learning loss, that piece of
A
the?
lot of it we're doing.
Okay.
A lot of it is our summer program, grand offer. Grades K through 5, Paula? 1 through 5. 1 through 5, you know, which one of the teachers in that program, Kelly. We also offered some of our intervention teachers. We added, again, intervention teachers this year as a part of that funding to help provide additional support. Instructional coaching is going to be one of the next ways we're looking at. Right. One of the things you'll see, we probably present this spring, is us bringing in instructional specialists from the East.
Yeah.
To help, to offset some of the readiness support Paula and our teachers as we go forward. So trying to offer additional resources for our staff.
Right.
The best way to minimize learning loss is to offer really quality instruction.
Yes.
The first time, and then
Yeah.
a lot of support as we go forward for kids. So that's been our strategy all along.
Anything else for Ms. Ostrander? All right, I need a motion and a second to approve the treasurer's reports as submitted.
So
Second,
Second.
thank you. Questions on any of those? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Motion and second to approve the warrant reports.
Second.
Questions on those? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Need a motion to authorize the shared services agreements with Belfast, Friendship, Waitsville, as has been in past practice, for special education classes for students, and will receive payment for such. Buddy and Aaron. Questions on those? Have they changed over the years? Have we increased, decreased, remained the same?
I would have to look at the numbers from Meg, but they're pretty consistent. Yeah, there's not a huge fluctuation. Positively. They have changed by 1 or 2 students plus or minus, but not.
I'm thinking dollar wise.
Yes, they're even changing, but the rates are.
Gotcha. Any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I need a motion to set the tax levy and or sign the tax warrant. The tax levies were going around, I think, and
That's what you guys said.
is shown that to most of you. I need a motion and a second to approve that. Brett and Aaron. Any questions on that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. In motion to create the GB stand activity account to replace the, or is this a new account?
It's a new
It's a
account.
new account. Val and Buddy? Questions? This is a new account. This doesn't replace this. There was no old account.
There wasn't, it just funneled through the senior account, so now
Gotcha.
that it's multiple grade levels, we're gonna keep it.
Perfect. Any questions on that other than mine? Concerns?
Is it gonna make for an audit nightmare?
No, I don't think so. Since it's its own account, I think it'll be fine. But if we were just putting each grade level, I think that would be worse.
They'll look at the receipts coming in, they'll see the names of the kids who are working there, what grades they're in, they'll be able to track where that money goes to which class, it'll be easier. I think, trust me, what we have now is.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an audit.
I'm not gonna say that, I'm just gonna nod and move forward.
Right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Need a motion to approve the class of 21, the closure of the class of 2021's extracurricular activities account.
So.
All right, thank you.
Second.
Questions on that? And they donated their money to the Jaguar and something else, right? It's
Sculpture.
a bronze sculpture.
Yeah.
Right. Which left them with a balance of a goose egg.
Yes.
Very good. So we're transferring or closing an account that has no money, basically. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Under your addendum that you should have there, under G, approve the BOCES agreements or rental agreements. I need a motion and a second to approve those lease agreements for the special education classrooms and distance learning classroom.
So. Second.
Josh, thank you. Questions on those? Yep. Those contracts in your packet, so. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. That was Eric with the motion, Josh with the second. Moving to the consent agenda, general action items. I need a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda, which consists of 12 different items. I'm not going to go down through, but it's your handbooks, your athletic code of conduct, CSE, CPSE recommendations. That list came out in your packet via the internet. Lifeguard list, which if you look at the one that was provided for you, is a more thorough list than the one that we got earlier. The committees that I emailed everybody, I think except for Fred. Fred, I didn't change yours, I don't believe, other than I did put you on negotiations. I want it off.
Oh, don't be afraid.
No, I wasn't. Just trying to cut back a little bit. And then all the out of district student attendance requests, and there's a list. Most of which are faculty, staff. But there's some others that are not. I have a motion. Second, Fred. Questions on that?
On the governing committee, you're looking for an alternating board member for the third.
Yeah, historically, that's the one that rotates.
Okay,
It's usually Buddy and I, and then it used to be just the board president and vice president, and then when Buddy came on, he made the suggestion that was available, that it rotates, so everybody gets a,
You have a calendar that's
so,
there too.
okay,
I asked Pam to fill people's names in.
Yeah.
So if you want to look through that, if there's conflicts that you have, you can let
Okay.
Pam know after the meeting that, hey, I'm gonna be not able to attend it that one.
Yeah.
We can make those
like
adjustments.
your Florida,
yeah, right.
that would be the ones that obviously we would try to
Sure. Yeah,
fill with those that are local.
I mean, that's the only governing task on just the.
It's really
pre-board
going through
agenda?
this, yeah, it's really
That's it?
going through this.
Oh, I was wondering if there was
No,
something
there's-
I was missing out. on.
No,
Would you
no.
like,
Secret society.
would you like more governing tasks?
No more government.
Would you like more governing tasks?
It's really just setting up the agenda that Monday prior to.
Not if you want, we can scratch your name into it.
No, I'll serve my time.
Trying to help.
Any other questions?
I know we spoke this earlier, on the athletic code of conduct, we can make an amendment to that afterwards, right?
What we talked about.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna add that.
Any other questions for anyone? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Under personnel. Need a motion and a second. This was tabled from our July 1st board meeting. For the mentor-mentee list that's provided.
So move.
John? Second, Bev? Questions? I know there was a concern, that concern was addressed, and everybody's happy with the answer that he got, so. Well, I think we all had the same question, you're just the one that were.
on me.
No, you were just the one that were.
You're the one on record.
Back up the
Yeah.
bus, yeah.
That's all I know, boss.
All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Need a motion and a second to amend, amend a motion to approve the pay adjustment for Rachel Winterhalter and Heidi White.
So move.
Second.
Done. I have a question only because are we approving a resignation at the end of this?
This is just for the summer program.
This was just for the,
Summer
okay,
program.
gotcha.
Yep.
Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Amendment motion for substitute pay as we've discussed at our retreat for the retired nurses, LPNs, and health office aides.
So moved.
Second.
But any questions on that? I think it spells it out pretty. And there is no difference as were case with all the other ones between this end of this year and the start of the next year, correct? By looking at this, where there used to be a different,
Right, the start of this year and when the minimum wage goes up, that's the difference.
Right.
That there's no difference between those two now.
gotcha. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Appoint summer school positions. I need a motion to appoint Penny Shipman as a teacher's aide and bus monitor. Val? Brett? Any questions on that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Appoint summer recreation program worker. I need a motion for the following. Summer program worker, Brooke Sites and Peyton Watson, aides, Nicole Butler, Jessica Briggs, and lifeguards, Ellie Levenny, Abby Coble, and Autumn Coble. Josh? Questions?
Why is everybody on an hourly rate and then all of a sudden these two are on a weekly?
They provided the instruction. So our instructors for the summer program make a weekly rate. And then our support, like our aides or our lifeguards, make an hourly rate. That's how they're budgeted.
Anything else? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I need a point bus driver for the Angelica Summer Program, Della Mulvey. That would be from July 1st through the 31st of August of this year.
So moved.
Bud and Donnie. Questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Need to appoint, or a motion to appoint the after-school program aides, Deb Bauman, Peyton Watson, and Bridget Makeley.
I'll move on that.
Beth? Questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Need a motion to approve the substitute list for 2021, 2022 that was provided in your packet. Do I have a motion? Eric and Buddy. Questions on the list? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Need a motion to appoint teacher aide position, Ronnie Tilton, effective August 24th.
So moved.
Second. Questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Need a motion to appoint teacher's aide Courtney Galuli, effective August 24th.
Second.
Yeah, Donnie by voice before I saw your hand. Eric. Any questions on that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Need him, carries. Need a motion to appoint teacher's aide Kirsten Cartwright, same start date, effective August 24th. Yep. Second. Yep. But be him.
Can't speak up, buddy.
That's twice we gave it to you.
Questions on that one? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Need a motion to approve long-term sub Candy Mitchell to a non-probationary term substitute teacher's aide effective August 24th.
Yeah.
Thank you, Eric.
Second. That was a
I was
tie.
gonna say, I'm gonna give that one to Don. Yeah? Any questions on that? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. I need a motion to appoint Jordan Wallace as a cleaner effective August 17th.
So moved.
I got a nod from Bud.
That's still.
Donnie with a second. Questions on that? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. The motion to appoint long-term substitute special education teacher Brock Mapes. And that would be effective August 24th, 2021. Right? And anyone else? For a second. Bev? Questions? Somebody like a Brock that is done long-term, says, obviously there's no continuity or a continuation of service, but there's things in there, I know the GBA contracts that you do it for a certain amount of time, certain things kick in. So does he?
There's no clause for
Okay.
continuity of long-term substitute.
Okay,
So the way it is, they're being their own entity, they're paid as such.
okay.
So
Yeah,
ideally,
I just wasn't,
ideally, Brock will get certified as a teacher soon, so that we can hopefully hire him as a full-time teacher.
Gotcha.
In our district. in some way,
Gotcha.
shape, or form. So yeah, there's nothing.
okay. I just wasn't sure if any of that kicked in when you go from one long-term sub to another. And really, to finish the year and he started the year, it's a different position, but he's still a long-term sub.
And again, if it's the same position, then it gets to a point where it becomes a full-time.
Gotcha.
So
Any other questions? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. I need a motion to appoint a second modified boys soccer coach for the 7th grade, Reagan Ryan, effective this fall season. Buddy and Don. Any questions on that? For those that don't, I don't know, did you send an email on that? We had to get a second coach. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
before you read the next motion, I received Chuck's resignation.
So he has to resign.
So if you could just add that, his resignation.
I will add that
Would
is,
just add it within the same motion.
Yeah.
He resigns from me.
that
And
very
it's not
well.
separate votes.
I am going to entertain a motion to accept the resignation of Charles Larrabee as a cleaner or a
Maintenance mechanic assistant.
maintenance mechanic assistant and appoint him as a maintenance mechanic effective August 17th. And we'll have a 10-month probationary period starting tomorrow. So. Go ahead. John for the second. Any questions on that? So we're clear, he's resigning from his maintenance mechanic assistant position. Now going to be the maintenance mechanic.
Got a promotion. Yes.
Back.
there are no questions, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Sure one. There we go. Chuck, congratulations.
These are the winners on the press.
I was just gonna leave that one alone, but.
I got big shoulders, is that your brother?
I need a motion to accept the resignation of Emily Palmer as a Spanish teacher effective August 9th.
So.
Eric? Bud? Questions? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. And I need a motion to accept the resignation of Rachel Winterhalter, effective August 24th as a teacher's aide.
So.
And a second, Fred? Questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Doc, I'll let you talk quickly and what wants to.
This, I do not think any of these will take long, other than our reopening plan and the technical discussion, so. September 13th is our next regular board meeting, October 19th is our following regular board meeting. I'm granting appropriately, October 19th.
What is?
October 19th, yes, just to clarify.
Of this year?
Of this year, yes. You, in your package, you got a thank you note from Amy Spag. To say thank you for everything you have done.
Yeah, it's right up here.
There was some discrepancy about the yearbook ad in the, this year from the board. And Tim has a copy. We want to make sure that you are on board with putting an ad in the yearbook for the 2021-2022 yearbook this year.
And honestly, when I saw this in the packet, I will address it with Nicole Spilda. Because I think in the past, we've done either a half page or a full page. And this was, I didn't even catch this in the yearbook, it was so small. That we normally do a bigger one, being the Board of Education. So I'll get with Nicole and get something to her. Either that just blown up or something, but we are still on board with doing that, correct? Having an ad.
In your packet, there was the agenda for next Tuesday's new staff orientation. In case you were, just so you were aware, as well as the agenda for opening day. You are all invited on Wednesday, August 25th to the cafeteria. We'll be serving breakfast from 7:40 to about 8:05 or 10. I will then present. If you would like to come, Tim, and any of the board members to address the faculty, you are all invited to do so. And you are opening remarks. So please join us if you're able to. The Meet the Teacher Night is next Wednesday, August 25th. Right now, we're running the traditional schedule for Meet the Teacher Night, where we have our elementary teachers in their classrooms and our high school secondary staff will be in the cafeteria. We will be providing a meal for families. We also have people who will be there to share all the things about our activity. So if you're able to come next Wednesday from 6 to 7:30, we're certainly invited to join us. Yes, sir.
It just hit, here we're gonna have,
Yep.
they're gonna be mandated to wear a mask.
They are going to be asked to follow our protocols. That's the part of it.
We're gonna have parents file on the bill.
I understand. We're going to do our best to not have confrontations with people. We're going to ask them to follow along. We want to welcome them. We want to keep them. They're going to, and obviously when they're eating, we're not going to mandate their, but we're going to ask them to follow our protocols. That goes with our parents who come in for this. If they come in as a volunteer, we're going to do everything we can to keep our kids safe. That's what this is ultimately about. And yes, there will be times when you look at me and shake your head like you're doing now, and we're going to do our best. But that's all I can continue to say here. First day of student attendance is September 1st. So just keep that in mind is that next week we have 3 days with faculty. New staff orientation is 24th, 25th, and 26th. Then the following week, The 31st is a superintendent's conference day, that all of our staff, except for our teacher aides, will attend. And the 1st and 2nd, we have students on campus. The 4th and the following Monday, you're closed for the Labor Day weekend. And then we have on the following Tuesday for resume. So you are aware. I mentioned the board agenda schedule. If you have any concerns about that calendar, please let Pam know since she needs to change. Future. I sent you a draft copy of the Board of Education goals. Does anyone have anything they want to change or didn't like the wording on that I sent you? And if you didn't have a chance to look at it, just let me know. If you have a copy of it. If you aren't sure, just let me know. Looks like this. And I'm happy to discuss any changes that you want to see before we start sharing those. Is there anything else to talk about on stand? Other than what we had put down here in case there was any conversation.
No, I'd love to see if between Jake and whoever else needs to be a part of that discussion, maybe a timeline of when he thinks he could get a.
I'm gonna ask you to give me until January.
Yeah, that's fine, because I know he's just getting.
Let's see, maybe our January work session.
Yes.
Try to get Jake to.
Yeah, just to have him start thinking about it and maybe at some point come up with a timeline of, so that we can show good faith and that we're trying to take care of some of the issues.
I mean, as far as the Board of Health is concerned, we're good for another year if we had to go with the same process we use.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the stuff that brought up was very minor. It's
Yeah, and he'll say, because there was nothing here to shut you guys down or even keep people from inside your restaurant.
So that gives Jake a little more time to acclimate himself, maybe
Yes.
like next spring or something.
And again, what
Right.
Tyler was addressing was the health pieces, we still have to work with the fair board.
Yeah. Yes.
I haven't had that conversation yet.
Then on the volunteer process we talked about earlier. I know we've mentioned about the alumni wanting to
Yeah.
volunteer.
You know, that's one of the things I would love, what I would like to do is to have a conversation with the governing board. Talk about what your ideas, if anyone knows ideas were, because I think it is a fact now that we are going to consistently show us to get people to volunteer. So if we have an adopted community, our community members adopting a student, they want to sponsor it and volunteer, I welcome that, but we're gonna have a new fair director, stand director next year. I think this makes sense to, once we have that person on board, to start to have those conversations. I would welcome the opportunity for people to come and participate. I would be hesitant if they're going to be in play or cause additional stress. So I don't know how that looks. So let's think about it and try to put some ideas together in advance of it. I think one of the things we're gonna have to do, Pam, is to hire the stand director in January, a little earlier than we usually do, because we have a different person.
So not approve them as part of the.
We approved Kim Marciano as a trainee in that position,
But not
but
the.
I think it was just
I
for
thought
that year.
Kristen Sampson was.
She was first senior stand
the
advisor.
advisor.
This is a coordinator, what twice as it. She oversees.
I was thinking the advisor coordinator position was the same, but I could be totally wrong. Okay,
Heidi oversees the whole thing.
right.
It's like
Manager.
Joel Gerda.
Right,
He did it
right.
almost every year.
Yes.
The advisor.
And then April Coons or April Claypool did it for a number of years after Joe. And then it was Heidi.
You're gonna be the senior advisors. You have two of them. Why aren't they at the senior stand?
It's not an expectation of the job description.
It used to be, and it ought to be.
That's something we'd have to.
Yeah, we
But it's
still need
part of-
to-
You're gonna be
address
the
that as
advisor
part of
and you're going on the trip. You need to be the senior stand.
I think that goes to another larger point that we need to follow up and go over some of those expectations for.
what the plan is for the whole thing,
Well, yeah. and
whether it
we
goes towards
said,
one
you know,
trip
that
or multiple.
There were
things.
certain things that. certain positions, or all the positions should have an expectation of what needs to be met to be.
The things I would say back here, we talked about that.
Yeah.
Started the draft versions of some of those.
Yeah.
Is that, if that is an expectation. then we're gonna put down a-
May not get the,
Well, the reality is, that is a reality. The other side of it is that I don't know that it is an expectation that the advisors go on the trip. I don't think that's right. I think it's something they organize. They always, for the most part, traditionally done. But again, we talk about expectations that are in writing as part of the job description. I don't believe it's been a past practice, but is it something that's deliberately in the job description? I have to look at it. I'm not saying that we shouldn't. What I am concerned about, as I said to you before, is we struggle to get people to volunteer now for many of these positions. So, and the more that we add on to them, my concern is we're gonna get to a point where we're not gonna have anyone who wants to sign up to this classifieds. We've been fortunate where a lot of people would want to do it. And then we gotta cross that bridge when we get there.
Yeah, from my lens, we just changed all that by creating the GECS stands, the senior stands, so it's not necessarily just a senior's trip.
right,
So,
just a couple.
That's part of the.
But that's part of the discussion I think we should have in the spring.
Yeah.
Around with this shift in the stand, what are the expectations for the advisors? And that's something that we certainly would reach out to our union leadership around and have them review it, have a conversation with us about. Because what I don't want to do is to place an expectation that they're not aware of it as signing up for this position.
I mean, I agree with Fred totally on what he's saying when it was a senior stands, that's the way it always was, but now that it's changed it. I don't know, it's really, because now you're gonna have ninth graders, they're gonna have they have their own set of advisors, right? So you're gonna mandate them going to.
Well, and again, many times the ninth grade advisor does not follow.
Oh, they don't?
There are times, sophomore, junior, senior, yes, but a lot of times ninth grade, there's one, this is from memory, so I gotta look, but there's one advisor for the ninth grade. Ninth and tenth is one. So
I think normally then they add a second.
Most of the times,
I would, not always.
yeah,
We-
not always.
We recruited Riley Duttweiler for the senior year many times to go back and help people do things, so I'm just throwing out that there's no consistent set of rules. We want to have job descriptions so people have clear expectations of what they're getting into, and then where we'll be accountable for. But I think it's a larger discussion.
Yes.
So, where was I? Stand. Tim, did I send you out a draft protocol for people to address the board today?
Did,
Did I send it to the entire board?
I think you did, but I cannot remember.
No, I think I just sent it to you and Buddy today.
Oh, okay.
I basically robbed and put together a couple different versions of draft protocols to address the board. I will send it to the rest of you electronically, if I don't get you a hard copy. I want you to read it and let's put it out for information discussion in September, because I think it does a nice job of spelling out the process. But I want to make sure you guys are on board with it.
There was a
It's
couple.
it's long. And it's one of the things I liked about it was it really spelled out who, what, where.
Yeah.
But I think there's some things in there that you're gonna want to comment on as whether you agree with or don't agree with. And that's what
Well, and I know just in the very short bit that I did read, just to see what you had sent.
Mhm.
I know we had this conversation a week ago with Eric, when Eric was at the meeting about the time frame for the public to get a hold of Pam and let them know if they want to be put on the agenda. And we had talked about it a little bit at that meeting about it bumping up from a week to a shorter time frame, like
So,
even a day.
so if you read that, they need a week in advance to place an item on the agenda, but they can call me the day of to come and speak to the board,
address.
to address the board.
And that's,
So that was the nuance within it, that I thought was, okay, there's an item that the community wants to bring in the agenda, we need time to
right.
do it. Oh, that's all right. But thank, I don't have my glasses.
That goes up to my water and.
But I think the reality is, well, I'm gonna send it to them electronically, hard copy. They can read through it, tear it apart, let me know what concerns you have, and we'll address it at the next meeting. Having said that, though, I heard you loud and clear.
Yeah.
If people want to come and speak to the board, we'll follow the same protocols where we're gonna do our best to have it, people come
Right.
and present to the board at that time. I put the NISBA conference on here, as of right now, no one is planning on attending. I just wanted to verify that and go forward. Then I have, let me talk about the opening plan at this point. So take a look at this document here, the one that's been passed out here. Very simply, I try to keep this as simple as we can. So the focus is, for my lens is very clear. One, we want students returning to school 5 days a week. We're going to looking at all layers of mitigation, masks, cleaning, HVAC as far as our ventilation, social distancing, hand washing, cleaning our drinking fountains, having additional cleaning as we go through the building. We're looking to partner with our parents and our community to ensure our transmission rates remain low. So students, faculty, staff, and parents with signs of infection remaining home, continuing to wash hands, continuing to follow the mitigation strategies that have worked. The duration, I said, again, every 5 weeks, we would take a look at and reevaluate the procedures and processes. Does that mean that we'll lessen them? Possibly. Does it mean that we may need to tighten them? Possibly, depending on what we're finding with the rates of COVID transmission in school. So what are we committed to as a district? First and foremost, providing a safe and welcoming environment for all of our kids. We want to continue to have our parents, volunteers to come. We're good, at this point, still committed to having our field trips and other activities that are planned, as long as they can be safe. That's our main concern. Right now, we're committed to having in-person extracurricular clubs and activities. And the athletics, music, and assemblies, as of this point, will continue to occur. So what does it mean in school? Well, school is looking for everyone in 5 days a week. We're looking at everyone being masked on buses. We're looking at two students per seat and or family cohort. So 3 members of elementary kids that fit into a bus seat. Okay, we're asking for the bus drivers to have assigned seats, and then when they pull on the lot before they dismiss, they're going to take attendance on a daily basis. So if we get the contact trace, we know who was in the seat across the aisle. The hallways and all common spaces, we're asking that everyone is masked anytime that they're within 6 feet of a student. Okay, so if you're in front of kids or if you're within 6 feet of students, you have a mask. Same in our classrooms. Our classrooms, again, all of our students and our faculty are masked when they're within 6 feet. We're doing our best to cohort our elementary classes to the best of our ability, knowing that there will be some crossover. We're trying to keep our elementary kids, for contact tracing purposes, cohort. And in the secondary level, what we're trying to do is to, in essence, have assigned seats for lunches. So I've asked Sarah to allow students to choose their lunch seat when they come to the cafeteria. However, they know that that seat will be consistent for a time period so that we take attendance if we have the contact trace. The other option is we leave them in their classrooms, and so we're trying to meet middle ground here to allow an opportunity. And then again, we're encouraging kids to go outside as soon as they're done eating, so that they can unmask, have a mask break, play hopefully. We're looking at social distancing in classes, is set at 3 feet as practical. And then again, assigned seats for being able to make sure that we can take attendance and have attendance. Quarantine. So one of the things that Tyler mentioned that just changed is from 6 feet to 3 feet. So if there's a student who is positive COVID, or test positive COVID, other students who are within 3 feet, not 6 feet, will those be eligible for quarantine? That's huge for us. Because again, in the spring, it was 6 feet before. That really is what some of the challenging reasons why we had to have large groups of kids COVID quarantine. So I think the other two I've covered. Sports and extracurriculars, at this point, no masks if you're outdoors. Part of the New York State guidance is they're concerned around, with athletics, it's the same as it was in the spring. If you're able to wear a mask, they ask that you wear a mask. If you can't tolerate a mask, then you're able not to wear a mask. They're also making some recommendations, which nothing has come out yet, but some of the high-risk sports like football, for example, one of the things we're looking at is whether or not if there's a high transmission rate on a team, then they're really having to take a close look at contact tracing and then looking at delaying the season or eliminating. So those are some of the things we're gonna come forward. I structured the rest of the document as frequently asked questions. And I'm not gonna read those to you, but I think they're self-explanatory and provide a lot of guidance to parents and families as we go forward. One of the things at the top of the back of the first page, I want to be really clear with you. The question is, will there be a 100% remote or hybrid program offered? The simple answer is no. So if you want a remote program or if you want a hybrid program, we strongly recommend that you homeschool your child. However, if we have a teacher that is quarantined, That teacher is able to teach remotely. Our job is to put the best person in front of kids in any way, fashion that we can. So we're gonna try to do that with using what we've learned through Microsoft Teams. So we would hire a sub for the day to come in and allow the teacher to still present instruction that way. We're also asking our staff that by the end of September, they have 3 remote activities, lessons planned, and that Microsoft Teams is set up so that if we are forced to go remote, we're able to do that. By no means do we want to go remote or to provide remote instruction. However, I think it would be irresponsible of us not to be prepared, particularly not knowing as we go forward. The last piece that I'll draw your attention to is on page 3, remaining questions. These are things that we're still seeking guidance on and looking for answers. So the school nurse protocols for return to school for vaccinated individuals who have tested positive for COVID-19. Frankly, we're waiting to hear guidance on how we respond to that. So I've been vaccinated, however, I know that I can be a carrier. I get tested and I test positive for COVID. What do we do? What are the protocols for that? What is the quarantine? Is it a 10-day quarantine? And then what do we do with staff or when it happens? Or for students for that matter, that are vaccinated and it happens. The other question we don't know the answer to at this point is, will students who have cold-like symptoms be required to be evaluated by a doctor and show proof of a negative COVID test to return to school? So again, not knowing the answer, well, we're asking right now that we're asking people to stay home if they're sniffling or if they got a fever, to try to mitigate as much as we can. However, for how long? What is the guidance here? When is it safe for someone with allergies or a cold? That if those allergies are documented, we can have them in. If the allergies aren't documented or it's a seasonal cold, when is it safe for them to come back to school? I'll pause there. My goal is to be able to share this with the community tomorrow and to get this out to hopefully answer a lot of questions. I wanted to give you the opportunity to review it, to have questions, comments.
Typically, if they have cold-like symptoms, would they be COVID tested, quick test?
We still have asked, because many of the even COVID tests are still, they're effective, but not 100%.
Right.
We've asked them to remain home. And so what we're going to encourage our staff is that we continue to provide work and where applicable, if it's able to have them come on Microsoft Teams and watch a lesson so they're not missing some direct instruction. We're encouraging our staff to do that. It's not mandated, but we're asking our staff to work with the families when that happens as much as possible.
Staff's gotta wear masks unless they're outdoors.
Or unless they're not within 6 weeks. Students.
Now, what would you do with students who repeatedly take their mask down and they're 3 feet apart? Assigned seats.
So that's what's hard, but the reality is it's like a dress code violation. We have to. This is only as good as we're consistent. And you know, as a teacher, the reality is none of our teaching staff, none of us want to police masks. But the reality is that in order for us to try to stay safe, it's something that we'll have to do. We'll have to be consistent.
Is this basically how you left off?
Very similar.
That's what I was.
It's very similar. Actually, it's lessened because of the
Screening.
6 foot to 3 foot.
I guess.
So we don't have to do the screenings. We're not doing the temperature. Remember, we had A's on every bus taking temperatures when kids got on. We had people in the parking lots taking temperatures before they got their cars.
But I assume you're still gonna have a lot of hand sanitizer.
Absolutely.
All over the place, masks.
We have a day cleaner who's gonna be on, who's
Yeah.
gonna be continuing to touch the door handles and continue additional cleaning. Our HVAC is still jacked up as high as we can get to try to keep as much fresh air in the building. You know, you'll hear concerns that it's cold because you know what, at the end of September, the gym's gonna be about 50 degrees. People come in, that's just reality. You know, people never complain about temperatures.
Well, it's better to put clothes on than the opposite.
I would agree with that.
First off.
Wrong.
But he kind of answered Chris about explaining the staff. Did we add some last year?
Yeah, we're gonna maintain a day cleaner that still does the rotation of bathrooms and then sanitizing as she's going around.
Other one was, I know we hired extra lunch, afternoon help. Are we going to continue with them?
At this point, we have, I believe, enough aid coverage from the aides that we've gone from long-term subs to full-time. and our staff to cover our lunches. So at this point, I don't see us hiring any additional serving staff as well. Correct me if I'm wrong, at this point,
Since they're coming to the cafeteria, it's gonna take a lot off of them, so it should be fine.
back to Eric's question, last year, we delivered meals to the classrooms. This year, they were allowed.
We also put a paper in the Thursday application as a group, so we have.
So, prepared. Unless I hear a massive revolt, that this is the worst plan you've ever seen, and I can't support it. It's gonna go to the community more.
And I don't see it addressed here. For the parent that comes and says, listen, I'm not subjecting my kids to a mask. You're not doing remote learning. What is the response?
They can reach out to the elementary office or guidance staff, and ask for an ICAP application, which is the curriculum
For homeschooling. And that applies to, I'm assuming not just elementary, but
secondary as well.
We want.
Obviously, that's not our goal.
No, I just want to be able to get, if somebody was to say, you know, I don't feel comfortable, you know, I'm sick of masks, I'm sick of, well, here's your option, you know.
One of the challenging things I think people have lost in the narrative is that the students who are 11 and under cannot be vaccinated. And those parents have the same rights to keep their kids safe as those who are making the argument that they have the right not to wear masks.
Right.
And so the idea that from their lens, that they have the expectation that we're going to do everything we can to keep their child safe.
That's the problem Florida has had. Is the other reverse side of that is, well, I want my children safe, and if we have infected people coming in with no mask on, then you're putting my child at risk, so it's a tough situation.
Yeah, and like I said, we've had
absolutely.
long conversations about it because, you know, I still struggle between the parents' rights versus the mandates and the whole masking, not masking. I struggle with it internally. I don't know what's right.
Well, it comes down to public safety. I mean, you're a police
Yeah, I
officer.
get
You know,
it.
we have speed
Yeah.
limits and we have licenses
Yeah.
and, you know, there are certain requirements. So
Right.
you gotta look at the risk and the
Yeah.
impact. This is the impact.
No,
And mandate everybody gets shot.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line.
Well, that's a toughie. Yeah.
It is.
Yeah. Now, who's gonna do it
Well,
first?
it's happening in private businesses. It's
Yeah.
happening in the military.
Yeah.
I don't know if you'll see it
Colleges.
goes to universities. I don't know if you'll see it coming into public ed or not. I know private ed is certainly what they're looking at doing, so I'm not gonna predict that. Locally, that's not something we're looking to mandate. We're looking to trust, we're trying to trust our staff to do what's right. And you know what? We have great staff here. And they look out for our kids and do a phenomenal job with our students. I don't anticipate that. Even, and again, we've had conversations around political discussions and political views, and our staff know their job is to be a facilitator in the classroom and to do what's best for the kids. I don't see that changing this year in any way, shape, or form. And what I'm really optimistic about is we're gonna have a much more normal, and put your quotes around normal, because it's not gonna be the same. I don't think we're ever going back to 2019, I'm gonna be clear. But I think hopefully we're gonna get to a point where we have enough people vaccinated that we can, this endemic goes on with a booster shot or something annually.
Well, we can argue back and forth all day on this, just like the media does, just like that presentation we had at board retreat with the race theory. It depends on what media you watch. Maybe I don't believe so much what Don's saying, because he might watch different media than me.
I watch both.
And you sway to one side, so that's your choice, so you
No,
know.
I go by the science. I'm a science teacher.
Right.
I go by empirical
Darn good.
facts. I don't go by bias, prejudice, uninformed. I go by the science. And we've got people out there that are treading on science, that are trashing science. For good, look at science has done for us. You know, go back 100 years and see what science has done, you know, polio, et cetera, et cetera. Yet there's people out there that don't trust scientists. They're political too.
I read a really interesting article this weekend. It was about after the pandemics of history, how we've been able to progress really rapidly when it comes to improve healthcare, improve lifestyles. And regardless of the science, because of the science, the way that the mRNA vaccine was delivered is opening many, many doors for new multiple sclerosis, cancer, Huntington.
Yeah.
All of those vaccines are now, because they found a way to get this into the cellular level. It's really interesting to look at. Having said that, I think no matter anything new, we're gonna face skepticism. And I think our job as a public school is to come back to who we are as an organization. We're about kids and doing what we think is best for kids and supporting them and keeping them as safe as we can.
It's a flu shot. It's a flu shot, bro. That's what it is.
You don't have to sell me, John. I bought it. The question is, we gotta make sure that it's, what I don't wanna do is turn off people who don't share our beliefs around that. And make sure that they know their kids are gonna be safe here and welcomed here.
But everybody's asking how much longer this has to go on. And you know who's asking? The unvaccinated. I mean, I'm a scientist. I'm gonna tell you the way it is. The reason we're getting an upsurge is because of those who are unvaccinated. Florida, the southern states, Florida, Alabama, Mississippi, are not vaccinated, and then they travel, and then we get spikes. I mean, I'm gonna call a spade a spade. If I step on someone's toes, I apologize, because I like people. Listen, that's what it is.
That's why I said we can agree to disagree.
Yeah, that's true, and I agree.
Well, hopefully everybody has that
disagree.
same maturity level, obviously.
Agree to disagree. Agree. We believe it's that. Unvaccinated or vaccinated.
I just wish I had you in my science class.
I probably would flunk out.
On that note, I have two more quick things. I know, but you gotta run. I spoke to you, buddy. As you all know, we accepted a resignation tonight for our Spanish position. I had a former employee who currently teaches French in the neighboring district reach out to us and ask us if we would consider switching to French here. My goal is to be able to actually have both languages, French and Spanish, back in our district again. Right now, I know you're making a face, but I don't have any applicants for the Spanish teaching position. It breaks my heart.
You're a Spanish teacher.
I went there right off the
You can
bat.
take 3 periods a day and leave your office, and it would take care of all my complaints, Brian. Come on.
It'd make my day easier too.
And then,
We're doing what's best for kids,
it's
right?
true, and then the lady over there is gonna file a grievance because I'm not in the GBA.
Oh, well, let her do it.
We'll get him there. Honestly, you'd be 2 doors down from me, so I'll keep a good eye on it.
So having said that.
You'll be his mentor?
I'll be his man.
We're broadcasting live, I
Be 2 doors down no matter where you go.
God.
Okay? Your office.
So my intention is, more than likely, if there's no large, again, issues with reading French and having French, we have a transition plan to try to address the current students in Spanish, as well as to offer French to some of our lower students. And then I'm optimistic that we're going to continue to look and find a Spanish teacher and be able to offer them. I just wanted to make sure that give you the opportunity to know that's the plan at this point, given that we're 2 weeks away from having students back and we need to find a teacher the best of our ability. Is there anyone who's ready to hang me to dry for longer French? And again, as a former Spanish teacher, Josh, it hurts.
And she has taught Spanish in the past, so she could.
She's good. There's absolutely.
Yeah.
My question is, why is French made as a universal language? Is it really?
It is the language of business in Europe. We border Montreal, which is in Quebec, which is and the north of New York State, which is the second largest French-speaking location in the world. So yeah, if you go to Plattsburgh right now, there's a lot of French speaking in and around Plattsburgh. People who come across the border. There's enclaves in Vermont that speak French. It's actually in the United States. There's a much more Hispanic speakers, but in northern New York, actually, Frenchies as we call them. In Europe, it's the language of business of Europe, as well as one of my goals is beyond the language is culture. Can we get kids to appreciate a different culture, learn about that culture? That's really at the foundation of the language of it. We'll have an opportunity for kids to go to Quebec City or Montreal as a trip, which is significantly cheaper than flying over to Europe, but also something that they could drive. I mean, you can drive down from New York, it's about 8 hours up to Montreal to deal with it, so. Is it ideal? Former Spanish teacher says absolutely not, but at this point, it's what I have, that bird in my hand. I'm optimistic that we may get some other applicants, however, we did reach out to the district that we lost our teacher to, and they have no other applicants for that position. So I am not optimistic because I don't know a massive list of Spanish teachers who are sitting around looking for work, so just want to make sure. The last thing that I have is that because we accepted Chuck's resignation as the maintenance mechanic assistant tonight, we have an opening on our staff. I've asked Chris to reach out to his team to see if there are people who are interested. That position is a step, in essence, above the custodian because we provide training for them to do maintenance on our air handlers and other of our, some of our HVAC regular preventive maintenance. So I just want to let you know that we had multiple applicants that were not our recommendation for Chuck's position available. So we're considering looking internally first. Chris and I will evaluate those internal people to see if they have the capacity to take that position on or are willing to do so. And if not, you can anticipate, regardless, you can anticipate a recommendation from me at the September board meeting to fill the maintenance mechanic assistance position. That's enough. Is there anything that I've missed from you guys?
Outside of after this, after we adjourn, I asked Willie to, or I asked Doc, and Doc asked Willie to have the bus, the new activities bus, you parked out front. You have obviously saw it, just so you guys can take a spin through it and look at it and see what all the hubbub was about. Good, bad, or indifferent.
What do you think? Doug? I think it looks stressful.
We're done.
Nothing better than healthy.
That's true. This is just my first one tonight. Yeah, we're all at seven, so.
Yeah,
Look, you got a minute and a half to get this.
that was gonna be a lot.
I'll take Don with me.
So the bus is gonna be out there, we can take walk through and just, you guys can see what that's all about. It's been a year in the making, so. I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Fred,
Second.
Don? If there's nothing else, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. We are adjourned at 18:50.